If you're looking to give yourself the best chance to live well into your 90s and still enjoy the things you did when you were younger, this is definitely the episode for you. We're going to be looking at 6 important habits that you can work on to achieve this goal that you have. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Health Movement Podcast. I'm Derek, your host, certified personal trainer and teacher of over 20 years. And today we're going to be diving deep into habits that you really should be working on that are going to have profound effects on not only how long you live, but how well you can enjoy the years that you have. It's not just about living as long as we can. If those last 20 years, you can't move, you don't think straight, you're in a home, all that sort of stuff. That's not what we're going for here. We're going to be jumping into 6 habits that you can work on that are going to give you the best possible chance to live well into your 90s and even longer. Obviously, we can't account for everything, but the things you can account for, the things you can control, you should do your best to control. The way this is going to go is I'm going to give you these 6 habits that we can work on. But in each habit, we're going to talk about some research. I'm going to give you specific studies that we can look at, and those are going to break down the importance of each one of these categories. We're next going to look at why these are tough for people, what causes these to be a struggle. We'll also look at ways we can overcome these struggles. And finally, how many years is this actually going to give us? What can I look at doing? So without any further ado, we're going to jump right in to number 1, eat mostly whole foods. Very simple. 80% of the time, that's what you want to eat. There are a lot of reasons for this, but the way that our food industry has changed over the last 20 or 30 years, the food you used to eat is made very differently than it is now. So there are a couple studies I want to look at here, and I have my notes. So if you see me reading off a paper, you hear the paper moving, that's why that is. But there's one called the Primary Prevention of Cardiovascular Disease with a Mediterranean Diet. This is done in the New England Journal of Medicine. It looked at 7,500 adults, following them for 5 years. And it found that the Mediterranean diet group had 30% lower risk of heart attack, stroke, and cardiovascular death versus the control group that ate whatever they felt like eating. And we talked to Ketty and Marcus a few episodes, and they talked a good deal about the Mediterranean diet. And it's a lot of fish. They don't do much red meat, which if it's whole food, knock yourself out. I don't think it really matters that much. But looking at vegetables, looking at fruits, all natural foods, if that's most of your diet, you're going to lower inflammation. You're going to reduce the risk of all the issues associated with these highly processed foods. So that's one study. And I'll link all these studies in the description if people are interested in reading the entire study themselves, which I will admit is mind-numbingly boring at times. But, to each their own, I guess. The other one is called Ultra-Processed Foods, Food Intake and Mortality. This is in the British Medical Journal. It says that each additional serving a day of ultra-processed food had an 18% higher risk of all-cause mortality, and people eating more than 4 of those servings had a 60% higher mortality risk. Some is okay. I'm not saying never eat the processed foods again. Sometimes we need it. But if that makes up the majority of your diet, and this was saying more than 4 servings, so that maybe that's 4 of your meals or 4 of the times that you eat throughout the day, you have a 60% higher mortality risk than those that are eating whole foods. That's a significant difference. Why is this a struggle? Why is this difficult for people? Well, first of all, they're cheap, they're fast, and the way they're engineered, the preservatives and the chemicals put in them are in there to spike your glucose level or your insulin levels really quickly, and then they crash and you get hungry again quickly. I'm not saying that is the focus of every piece of food that's ever made, but the people who make the food understand the way it works. They make a lot of money, the food companies, so they're trying to get you to continuously eat this food. Confusing from marketing is another issue people have. And this one always comes back to me. The Cheerios box says health right on it. And while it is healthier than some other cereal alternatives, cereal is one of the worst breakfast foods you can have. It's processed. Anything in a box that can sit on a shelf for months without changing is a processed food. The process, your body burns through them quickly turns to glucose. They run through your stomach. Insulin levels rise. Food gets delivered to your cells, and then it's gone. It doesn't last very long. It doesn't take long for your body to process that food. And the thing, when you're eating a whole meal, like if your breakfast is eggs, and I'm trying not to say like, and I might keep this in there, but I go through and I read the transcript, and the amount of times I say like is kind of infuriating. So I'm really going to make a point. So if you are eating eggs for breakfast, maybe you have some fruit, maybe you throw some avocado in there, whatever, something along those lines, that food is going to take a lot longer for the body to break down. So that's a steady glucose delivery into the bloodstream. Your insulin levels stay relatively low because the body doesn't need much insulin to deliver the food, as opposed to these high glucose spikes that the insulin needs to flood into your bloodstream in order to deliver them to the cells as best they can. So that marketing piece is tough because you think you're eating the right stuff. Breakfast, I'm having Cheerios. I'm having like a healthy bran muffin. Eggs are the best breakfast you can have, in my opinion. I'm not a nutritionist or anything like that, but the research I've done, you want to get protein in your first meal. You should be looking to get protein in every meal, actually, but that's going to fill you up. My breakfasts lately have been close to 1,000 calories. I've been doing 4 to 6 eggs, depending on the day, with some ground beef. I'll do avocado. I'll do fruit, blueberries. I'll do a banana. I'll do some other berries. And it's close to 1,000 calories some days. If I go to that 6 eggs, I'm not hungry for a long time. Like I'll eat that at 6. I can go to like 10 before I even begin to feel hungry. So the food that you start the day with is incredibly important. And then another thing that's really difficult is the lack of planning. And there's so much we have to plan for in our lives. So it gets difficult when we have all this other stuff on top of it. But if you don't plan out your meals, you get hungry, you're out, you're like, all right, I'm just going to jump to McDonald's. I'm going to go to the gas station and grab a power bar because I think those are healthy. Next time you go to the supermarket, pick up a Met RX bar, which they taste excellent. Look at how many grams of sugar in there. I believe there are 32. That's not what you're looking for. You shouldn't be getting more than 50 grams of sugar in I would say added sugar. Eat as much fruit as you want. I don't care at all. But that's the stuff that hits it and makes it hard. So here are steps to make it easier. Number one, you got to plan out a little bit. And it doesn't have to be crazy where you have your fridge full of prepped meals or anything like that. Plan it out a little bit. Look at the week beforehand. You go food shopping, plan it out. All right, breakfast, I'm going to do these 3 meals every day. All right, I'm going to do eggs one morning, yogurt with fruit is decent depending on the yogurt. If you get the high sugar kind, that's no good. But like a plain Greek yogurt, you can put some honey on it. You can put some fruit in there. That's got a decent amount of protein. Cottage cheese is always good depending on your the way you handle dairy. But have a staple of a few different breakfasts that are good for you. Same thing with lunches. Same thing with dinners. Find things that work and plan ahead. Start your meals. Make sure you have protein and fiber in every single meal. If you have less than 5 grams of protein in a meal, that's not a meal for you. That's not going to fill you up. Same thing with fiber. You want to get, depending on some of the research you see, 50 grams of fiber is a lot, but you can hit that with the different fruits and vegetables that you're eating. If you eat an apple as opposed to a glass of apple juice, you get all the fiber in an apple. I'm not exactly sure. Alexa, how many grams of fiber are in an apple?
A medium apple has 4.4 grams.
There you go. There's your 5 grams of fiber, roughly. Have an apple with a meal. And that's how simple it is. If you're not sure, that's how quick it was to figure that out. So you can tell, I don't want to say her name again because she'll start talking to me. but just say what your meal is and say how many grams of fiber are in this, and it will tell you. So use the tools that we have: fiber, protein, every meal. And a good way to start, if you're finding you're eating a lot of processed meals, you're not going to make this change all at once. Pick one meal a week and change it. Once you feel good with that, do that for a few weeks, then a second meal, change that. Now, in terms of looking at how many years we can add on to our life, and I'm thinking starting at 40 and going to 80, which is roughly the average life expectancy, 80. Depending on what you eat now, you can add anywhere from 3 to 8 years to your life by just working on the things that you eat, which, if you're looking at it, living it to 80 and then going to 88, that's a significant difference. But again, all these years being added are not just years, they're quality years. So maybe if you're eating these highly processed foods, your inflammation is up, your resistance to illnesses is way down, heart disease is up, you're on medications. If you clean up what you eat, all those things improve as well. And obviously I can't guarantee it for everybody. Everybody's different, but most of the time you clean up your diet and then a couple of other things we're talking about, you're going to see a huge, huge improvement. So that's that. Next one, strength training 2 to 3 times a week. Well, let me say that again. Number 2, strength training 2 to 3 times a week. You need to build muscle. Don't worry about getting bulky. You don't need to go to the gym necessarily. You can do body weight exercises. You can do push-ups and pull-ups. And if you can't do a pull-up, that's fine. Put your foot on a chair under a pull-up bar and use that to assist you. Or you can lay on your back and pull yourself up to do almost like a reverse pull-up. You don't want to just do pull-ups because then you'll become imbalanced. You want to make sure you're working your back muscles as well as your front. But there are plenty of body weight exercises. You can get a pair of bands off of Amazon for $20 that have 150 pounds of total resistance. And if you want to make even more resistance, you put a loop in the band and it makes it even more. Resistance training, though, let me go into, sorry, I'm getting off topic a little bit, but let me go into the research here. There are a couple of them. Resistance training and mortality risk by the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, and this is from 2022. Strength training versus no strength training at all. They had a 15% lower all-cause mortality. The best results came when you're doing 2 to 3 times a week. Another one, the Association of Resistance Training with Biological Aging. This is from Preventative Medicine. 90 minutes a week of exercise. That's 3 days of 30 minutes. That's not much. The biological age dropped by 4 years. And there are a lot more studies. Do a quick Google search of the benefits of muscle. It will help you live longer, but it also, your metabolism will go up. For those of you that like to eat, the more muscle you have, the more food you need in your body to maintain that muscle. So you actually get to eat more when you have muscle. Again, you're not going to get bulky unless you're eating in a severe calorie surplus and getting a lot of protein in and training a certain way. So for those of you worried about bulking up, you're not going to get bulky. You will develop muscle, but there are people who spend 20 years in the gym trying to get big. It's not easy. It's not something that's going to happen quickly. So why is this difficult? Why do people struggle? The first one, it's intimidating, especially if you're going to a gym and you've never been before. Anytime you try something new that you're not good at, it is intimidating. If I were to go to a book club where we read a book and discuss it, I can read, I teach reading, but I've never been to an actual book club. I would be intimidated going in there. I wouldn't know what to expect. Same thing happens with the gym, but the difference is you also have people who are big and strong and can just be intimidating to look at. So you have a new skill, you have a new place that's filled with potentially intimidating people. But I've said this many, many times, the people at the gym want to help. Anybody who's passionate about something and sees someone trying it for the first time, they want to support that. I will say 99.9% of the time, if you go up to somebody at the gym and you're like, I don't understand what's a good way to work my chest, they will talk your ear off for an hour if you let them about the best ways to do it. It's simple. You can go, Mind Pump is an excellent podcast, and they have training programs that will cover body weight bands, cover free weights, however you want to do it. Something like that where you pay, they have sales all the time, but 50, 60, $70 for a 12-week program that's repeatable. So you can keep using that same program over and over again is something that will get you through there. So intimidation is something that's definitely worrisome. Fear of injury, and I hit the bulking thing. If you do things correctly, you're not going to get injured. Well, you are far less likely to get injured. Um, when the injuries happen, it's when people either don't know what they're doing or they have too much load or resistance put on whatever exercise they're doing. If you're going to work out for the right reasons, which is your overall health to develop muscles instead of anything associated with ego, take your time. This is a long game. Like if we're doing this from 40 to 80, and I said, like, again, I heard it. If you're doing this from 40 to 80, you don't need gains to happen in the first year. That's not the goal. The goal is to build muscle, to maintain, your metabolism, to help prevent injuries, to help with blood flow. There's so many benefits of muscle. So fear of injury is one, but that is definitely something that we can avoid as much as possible. I would, if you're new, deadlifting it's a good exercise if done well, but that one definitely is something that leads to injury. And if you're really worried, don't do any free, free weights. There are tons of machines and stuff that you can use at the gym that provide almost the same benefit as free weights. And if you want, do resistance bands or body weight, because those are far less likely to lead to injury. And the last thing, and this is something that I think this will be across the board, is delayed results. People want instant gratification right now. You can go to the gym for a day and leave, and you won't see a difference. You won't see a difference in a week. But I guarantee you, if you consistently go for 6 months and you do the first one where you start working on your eating as well, you're going to look very different. You're going to feel very different, and you're going to see the progress. And once you start seeing some progress and you know what you're doing is working, then it makes it easier to continue. Again, if there are so many people out there, heck, send me a DM. I'm not going to charge you. Like, I'll hop on the phone with you for an hour if you want. We can talk through everything. I love this stuff. So I am happy to help you however you can or however I can. So just understand that it's a process. It takes time. And if you go in knowing that, anybody who says in 8 weeks you're going to have a six pack, unless you already are close to a six pack, that's not going to happen. But if your goal is, if you have 100 pounds to lose, maybe you're at a very unhealthy weight and that's where you want to drop down to. If you lose a pound a week, in 2 years, you've lost 100 pounds. Think of where you were 2 years ago and how quickly that went by. It's fast. It's really fast. So think from now, in 2 years, what will your future self think of you or say to you, or how will you feel? So that's another thing that has caused some problems for people, is that delayed gratification. How do we make this easier? I've said a few things, but plan. You can either do 2 full body workouts a week, 3 full body workouts a week. If you're going to do more, then split up the muscle groups and maybe do a push day, a pull day. A push is like anything you're pushing away from your body, uses your chest, your triceps, your shoulders. A pull day is going to be anything pulling towards your body, which is going to use your back and your biceps. And then you got to make sure you work your legs. That gets skipped. And there's so many jokes out there. Don't skip leg day. Your legs are doing a lot of work all the time. If your legs are in bad shape, it's going to lead to a lot of other problems. So that's an important one. Squat, hinge, that's the bend over at the waist, push, pull. And then carrying is incredibly important too. There are definitely studies that show a link between being able to carry a certain amount of weight for a certain amount of time and your expected longevity. Your average life expectancy, I have found a couple different places, can be between 7 and 10 years. And bear with me with math for just a second here, because this is kind of cool. If you equate every rep you do to time you get, it's pretty astounding. So I'll break this down for you. Let's say on average from 40 to 80, if you're lifting consistently 3 days a week. We'll say do 6 different exercises, 3 sets, 10 reps. You do 180 reps that day. You do that for 40 years. You're over 1.1 million reps. You do that 3 times a week, every week for 40 years. You've added 7 years to your life, 3.7 million minutes. You've done 1.1 million reps. Simple math, 3.7 million divided by 1.1 million, you're looking at adding 3 minutes of your life for every rep you do. I know that sounds crazy, but if you can equate that, if I told you, you go to the gym or you work out at home or whatever it is, you do 180 reps, that's 540 minutes you get with your kids that you didn't have before. You get with your grandkids. They get with you. And not only are those extra minutes, they're better minutes. And then do that again 2 days later. Now you're at 1,080 minutes. It adds up quickly. So if you can equate these things that you're doing to added time to your life with your family, with your friends, with your loved ones, great grandkids, think of how powerful that is. Everything we're talking about here simply equates to that. Number 3 is cardiorespiratory fitness. This I'm talking about zone 2 cardio and some higher intensity stuff. Zone 2 is when you're doing something, you're jogging, you're on the elliptical, and you can still hold a conversation, but it's not super, super easy. That's zone 2. There are a couple studies that were done. There are actually way more than a couple, but a couple I'm going to look at. One of them found that with looking at 120,000 adults, the ones with elite fitness that really push themselves had an 80% lower mortality risk. And I'm talking about heart disease, cancers, diabetes, the normal killers that we see. In the lowest fitness group, the ones that weren't doing anything had a 5 times higher death risk than the standard group that was doing regular cardio. 5 times. That is significant. And then another one found that these higher activity levels, and I'm not going to say it right here, but added a significant amount of years to your life. So why is this struggle? Why is this a struggle? Sometimes people go way too hard. They think they need to run sprints, and there are definitely benefits to sprints. I'll get into that in a sec, but they push themselves too hard, too frequently, which can lead to injury, which can lead to time that you can't do it, leads to burnout, leads to frustration. Finding something you enjoy, like a brisk walk where you're kind of pushing yourself every day, is fantastic for you. Another thing that's tough is I don't have time, and don't give me that crap that you don't have time. I dare you to look at the settings on your phone, look at the battery, and it will tell you how much time you spend on your phone. Look at that first. If you don't think you can carve out 20 minutes from whatever it is you're looking at on your social media and everything else, then we can have a conversation. But that's the first thing you look at. Otherwise, get up 20 minutes earlier. Don't be a wimp. And then the last one is it's confusing to not know what to do. So again, there's so much out there that you can get help with to make this possible. If you want anything in life, it's going to take some effort to figure it out. But like anything that you want to figure out, there are ways to do it. How are we going to make this easier? All you're looking for is between 150 and 300 minutes a week of this easy to moderate cardio. 150 minutes a week, that's a little over 20 minutes a day. I know you can find 20 minutes a day to do some of this. It can be split up too. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes at once. Eat breakfast, go for a 10-minute walk. Eat lunch, 10-minute walk. Eat dinner, 10-minute walk. There you go. You've got 210 minutes right there. You're going to want to add a hard session in once you get comfortable and physically you're able to do it. I wish someday I'm going to be talking to Dr. Peter Attia. I mention him enough on here, but listening to Dr. Attia, one of the biggest indicators of longevity is your VO2 max, which is how much oxygen your blood can handle throughout intense workouts. And the way to increase this, the best way that was found to increase it, according to him, and I do trust him, is something called the Norwegian 4x4, where you go 4 minutes as hard as you can. It could be sprinting, it could be on the elliptical, it could be on the bike, it doesn't matter, but you're pushing yourself for 4 straight minutes. And then you go 4 minutes at almost a crawl so you can bring your heart rate down. You do that 4 total times. I've done it. I enjoy doing it. It's miserable, which I know sounds a little bit I don't counterintuitive, excuse me, but it's a challenge, and get in the habit of challenging yourself. So that is huge. Doing this can easily add another 4 to 7 years to your life, again, depending on where you're starting. But this goes back to looking at it like we did with the strength training. Every rep gave us 3 minutes. We can do similar math, 3.1 million minutes in 7 years. That's how many minutes there are. If you're doing 150 minutes a week, you're getting those minutes back. So look at it instead of, I don't want to do this. Look at, all right, every 5,000 steps I walk, and I didn't do the math on this, I'm just throwing this number out there, I get 10 minutes of life added on to the end. And these are good years. So think about it that way. And maybe I'll do the math later on and I'll throw it in a reel or something later on. But it's important to figure that out, to understand that piece of it. You're not doing it for that second. You're doing it to add on the years and add on the good years. And number 4, daily movement. This is a big one. Looking at the benefits of this, of making sure you're moving, it lowers the risk of everything that we've been talking about: diabetes, heart disease, cancers. There are so many studies out there that I'm not going to just give you the name of one. Do a quick Google search. I promise you, the benefits of having daily movement are incredible. Why is this difficult for people? Like I said, the desk jobs, the sitting too long make this difficult. Convenience culture, we want everything easy, and we've gotten used to not having to do too much to get what we need. If you want something, you can go on your phone and DoorDash it to your house. You can have Amazon deliver it that day. You don't actually have to go anywhere. When we were younger, one of the things we would do is go to the mall, and you would just walk laps around the mall with your friends. I don't know if you've been to a mall recently, but at least the ones around me are like barren wastelands. It's pretty bad. Maybe not around Christmas and the holidays, Hanukkah, but it is very different. Our lifestyles have changed. And one thing that happens is you get in what's called a low energy loop, where if you're not active, you're tired. And then when you're tired, you don't want to be active, and you get in a cyclical pattern that makes it difficult. So you have to do something to break that pattern. So steps to make this easier: force yourself to move 5 minutes every hour. That's it. If you're at work, get up, do a phone call while you're walking. Park far away from the office or far away from the grocery store, so you have to walk further to get in there. Please do not take the elevator unless you really need to. Take the stairs, even if it's 10 flights. That's a lot of your exercise right there that you need. You will notice a difference, I promise you. If you take the stairs for 2 weeks as opposed to the elevator, you're going to notice a big, big difference. Walk after meals, I mentioned before, but that is huge. It helps with digestion, but also you get in that habit. It's huge. And then have a step goal. And I like to say you should be getting at least 10,000 steps a day, but that depends on where you're starting. If right now you're only getting 4,000 steps a day, you're not jumping to 10. Start at 4, go to 4,500 for the next week or two, then push for 5,000, then 5,500. Make it a slow progression, but you need to have that step goal. Check on your watch, put your phone in your pocket throughout the day, and you'll be able to tell how many steps you have. This, having more of an active lifestyle, or just not being so sedentary, will add between 3 and 6 years to your life, depending on where you're starting and how active you actually become. Very significant. All right, sleep. Number 5 is sleep quality and consistency. This one is, there's a study, sleep duration and mortality. It's from the sleep study. Short sleep or not enough sleep, this is below 7 hours consistently, is linked to a 12% higher mortality rate. The The American College of Cardiology Analysis found that optimal sleepers lived on average 4.7 years longer in men and 2.4 years longer in women. Why people struggle? One of the biggest things is these right here, your screens. Everybody, not everybody, a lot of us have gotten into the habit of watching TV before bed. And then you get in bed, you check your phone, you want to see if there are messages, scroll on Instagram or whatever it happens to be for a little while, and then you go to sleep. The light from those messes your circadian rhythms up. It makes your mind think it's time to stay awake. So it's harder to have a restful sleep. Stress is another big thing, and racing thoughts that make it difficult to fall asleep. Anybody who has something big coming up knows that tossing and turning at night happens. You're never going to remove all stress. It's not possible, but there are things that you can do to make it easier. And the last one is your timing of caffeine and alcohol. Um, Limiting alcohol across the board is good for you. No alcohol is even better. But if you're drinking, especially significantly before you go to bed, is not restful sleep. I think everybody who's been in that situation can agree. So cutting back your alcohol timing will definitely help. I'm not saying pour whiskey on your Wheaties. I'm not saying that's a good idea, but it's important to think about the timing of that and the frequency. Depending on how serious you are with getting the most out of life, cutting back alcohol does make a difference. Caffeine is the next thing we need to talk about. The half-life of caffeine is about 5 hours, which means after 5 hours, half the caffeine is still in your body. So if your last cup of caffeine is at 5 p.m., you still have half of it in your body at 10 p.m. when you're trying to go to bed. So you really should limit your caffeine intake after 12 o'clock. We all have nights where you sometimes have to get stuff done, and sometimes you need the caffeine, but do not get in the habit of that. Um, Ways we can fix this: have a fixed wake up time and a fixed go to bed time. We all set an alarm in the morning, or most of us do. Set an alarm at night when it's time to go to bed, and then plan. All right, if I'm going to sleep at 9:30, I know 7 hours is going to bring me to 4:30. If I need to get up at 4:30, then I need to go to bed at 9:30. If you're going to sleep till 7, guess you can go to bed at midnight and you still get your 7 hours. But again, it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. Some people need more. Some people can get away with 6. From what I saw, the percentage of the population that can legitimately function on 5 hours of sleep or less is so minuscule that it sets to 0 when you look at a scale. If you've been awake for, I, I double check me on this, but I believe it's 18 hours straight. It's the same as having a blood alcohol level of 0.05. And if you're awake for 24 hours straight, it's similar in terms of reaction time of being legally drunk. So if you're driving somewhere after being awake for 24 hours, that will also lead to accidents and other things. So sleep is very important. Fix wake up time, fix go to sleep time. Morning sunlight helps with your circadian rhythm. So your body knows it's wake up time and it will start to wind down later on. And an hour before bed, try to get rid of screens, or at least a half hour before bed. You should have like a wind down routine. Heaven forbid you have conversations with the people in your house. That's fine. Read a book, write in your journal. That helps with stress, by the way. Do a puzzle, whatever you want to do that doesn't involve a screen. This can add anywhere between 2 and 5 years of life, depending on what your situation is already. All right. And the last one, number 6, social connections. This is super important and it's oftentimes overlooked. There are way more I could put on this list, but I know social connections don't get reported enough in terms of their importance. So one of the studies was the social relationships and mortality risk. This looked at a combination of 148 studies, over 300,000 people. It found that those with stronger relationships had a 50% better mortality rate than those that didn't, those that had weak relationships, excuse me. And loneliness, depending on the severity, in certain regards, was comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day in terms of the effects it has on the body. Relationships are important. And if it's something that you're looking to do, improve all these habits, I'm part of a habits group that meets every other week. Not meets, we have like a call, but it's people I only knew one of them before. She was on the podcast, Sarah, wonderful woman. She's a habits coach. If you need help, I'll put her link in the description because she's awesome. But she got a bunch of people together and we all kind of talk about what we're working on, habits we're trying to change. And we have a group text together, and the people are awesome. It's a group of people who are all trying different things, but it's similar where what we're trying to get. So find people that are looking to do the same things you're doing. And if you're a shy person, that's okay. If you have trouble meeting people, that's okay. Find something that you enjoy and go and do that in a social setting. If you love playing basketball, every town has pickup basketball. It's usually at the local gym or the local school. Get in touch with the town rec and see when basketball is and go. Some of the best friends I've met at the gym or at playing basketball or in these social settings where I normally wouldn't have met somebody. Another thing that, or why this is difficult for people is that isolation piece. Once you get set in your ways, it's difficult to step out of it. People can be shy, people have anxiety, people have insecurities, and stepping out of their comfort zone is difficult. If you don't try to change, you will never change. And I'm not saying you're a bad person and you have to change that piece of it, but we don't grow unless we push ourselves. If we stay where we are, you stay where you are. Another thing that's tough is people blame schedules, which, yeah, I get it. It's tough. We definitely don't see our high school buddies nearly as much as we did when we were younger. Um, but that's kind of life, and you have to plan it out that way. And sometimes people don't like the social situations because they don't like that sense of vulnerability. Again, these are different than putting your muscles through a stressor or trying to stay good with your food. This is obvious that oftentimes more difficult for people. So how to make this easier? Number one, try to plan one social thing a week. It doesn't have to be getting together with a group of people. Start going to the gym or start going to a Pilates class or play pickleball. There's the November Project in Worcester, Massachusetts. They have their snow globe event, which is at the end of January. Um, they meet Wednesday mornings and they run bleachers at Holy Cross. You can walk the bleachers if you want. It could be maybe you want to go to a book club. Maybe you want to go to the library and just be near people, but make a point once a week to have some sort of social interaction. You can join a group, like I said, the habits group. There are plenty of groups that you can join that will do this. And look for depth of relationship as opposed to how many different people you see. Try to build those deeper relationships. This has been shown to add up to 4 years to your life. Now, I should have said this at the beginning. This is not a linear scale. If you line up all the numbers and you add them all up, you're not going to add 40 years to your life by doing these things for me. You're not necessarily going to live to 120. Is it possible? Yes. And it, maybe it's even more possible as we get older, but all of these lead to a more fulfilling life. It's not just the years that you live, but the life in those years. I want you guys to do the best you can to help each other out, to push each other to get what you can out of life. If you found this helpful, if you think these are habits that other people you know could use, please pass this on to them because I do think this stuff is valuable here. None of these are extreme. I'm not asking you to do anything crazy. It's small, consistent actions. Sam Dema came on. He had a tattoo right on his forearm that said SCA, and I asked him what that meant. He said small, consistent actions. Over time, if you do things consistently, you will see results. They're not extreme things. They just have to be done consistently. And that takes practice. Do one at a time. Don't start with all six if you haven't done all six. That's going to lead to failure. Pick one. Start with the exercise if you want, or start with the food. Go from 7 highly processed meals every week down to 6. Do that for 2 weeks, then go down to 5. There are plenty of good things out there that you guys can do. If you need help with any of this, put stuff in the comments, reach out to me. I can put you in touch with certain people. I can help you myself. Life should be incredibly rewarding, fulfilling. If you don't feel like you're getting everything out of it that you could be, change one thing and then start building on that. It makes life so much easier. So I want to thank you for taking the time to listen with me today. Again, if you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, all that normal fun stuff. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. So please leave a comment in the comments and pass this on to people you think would use it. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, and I'll be talking to you soon.